Enjoy the richness of crisp apples at Abbott's Magic.
This is the MagicWordPodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the MagicWordPodcast.com. Boy, this is going to be a great episode. I had so much fun going back and listening to this and starting to edit it a little bit. There's only a couple of minor edits in here, which I think you'll appreciate. But anyhow, it was so much fun with these guys. We'll get to that in just a moment, but I do want to follow up with a couple of things, one of which I mentioned in last week's episode. I'm going to be attending the upcoming Magi Fest in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm looking for a roommate, and thank you very much. I appreciate people who have called or sent emails or contacted me. I have now a roommate, so I'm all set and squared. And for those who will be there, please come up and say hello. I'd love to chat with you and put you on the podcast with me so we have a little content for the daily reports we'll be giving. Second of all, I want to also mention we did have this contest that's been going for the last couple of weeks. We've had dozens and dozens of entries, and of course we can only select two. And on the backside of this episode, I will announce who the two winners were of the contest. But I want to thank each and every one of you who had entered the contest. Thanks for listening to that episode with Seth Kramer and for the nice feedback I've received on that, and he's independently received on it as well. So thanks for listening, and thanks for entering the contest. This week we're going to be traveling to Colon, Michigan. Actually, it was last year in, I believe, August of 2022, and it was a phenomenal convention on so many different levels. It followed Quebec right after the FISM convention, and so it had some top names. So many people were there. It was so much fun. Really had a great time, and I was fortunate to get two of my favorite people in the same room at the same time, and that's Joel Hodgson and also Mac King. We've had Mac on from time to time on the podcast with just an excerpt here and there as part of a convention report, but really never had time to split him out and feature him on a full episode, which I've been planning on doing at some point. But when I got 2 for 1 with Joel Hodgson, who is the creator of the Mystery Science Theater and currently the showrunner for the rebooted edition of that, I just thought this is great because I've been kind of a fanboy of that show for a long time, as well as for Mac. I've been a fan of his forever as well, having gone back to the early days when he was working in the comedy clubs, and we talk a little bit about that. In fact, that's what this episode is about, talking with these two comedy giants, because they both started out working some of the same comedy clubs, apparently up in Michigan. And so we get into talking about that, as well as their careers and how they developed and how they went a couple different directions. Mac King took off, so he was going in the direction of Las Vegas, where he is currently the longest-running comedy headliner in Las Vegas, and then also with Joel Hodgson, who then had been on Saturday Night Live and David Letterman show and so many other television shows, and has his own unique kind of style. And I suggest you go back and look at some of the videos that I posted on the MagicWordPodcast.com, where you can see that, or you can just do a search on YouTube and find some of his appearances on television. It's very funny, very good. But the Mystery Science Theater is kind of what has carved a niche for him in the global community outside of just people who enjoy magic. It's just a very fun and very funny show. So it has been just a ton of fun getting to talk with these two guys, and had me in stitches, and I think that it will you too. So we have a lot to talk about. I'm going to step out of the way and introduce my guests this week. Please welcome Mr. Mac King and Joel Hodgson here on The Magic Word. This morning we have got not one, but two titans of trickery. How about that? Who are going to be with us here this morning. A couple of guys that are going to that I've been wanting to talk with for a while, and now we get them both 2 for 1. One guy is headlining in Las Vegas. The other guy is headlining on television. So there you go.
Who's the winner?
We're never going to know, man. If you outlive me, you're the winner. If you outlive me, you just go. I win.
All right. Well, this is the Battle of the Titans.
There we go. There's got to be a movie in here somewhere.
Yeah, that was such a good way to introduce us, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean...
And there he is. First of all, Joel Hodgson and Matt King. There we go.
This is Joel.
So you know the
Can
voice.
I be my voice and do Mac.
And this sounds very much like Joel.
I know, but you think you sound like me?
No, I don't sound like you at all.
Okay,
but you said both of our names, and now it's confusing.
Okay,
It
I'm
is.
Joel Hodgson.
And I'm Matt King.
And I'm Scott Wells.
And Scott Wells.
And today we're on the Magic Word Podcast.
Wait, this is an interview with who?
I'm just
I
someone in the
swear I
background.
thought this was Ira Glass.
No.
I'm gone.
Fuck you, stay here.
Okay.
So
You two guys talk amongst yourselves,
We
between
have a long history, and it's wild because we really started in the same town within months of each other, but never crossed paths, right? Don't you think? And
Yeah, we lived blocks from each other, I
that's
believe.
right. In college, he went to McAllister and I went to Bethel almost the same time,
Yeah.
right? Like I got out in '82.
And I got out in 81.
Yeah, so we never crossed paths.
In
We-
Kentucky?
No, this
that
is
was in
Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Okay.
We never crossed paths, and then I probably went into Mickey Finn's, which was the only comedy club in Minneapolis, and Mac.
I went there every week.
He went there every week, and I went in there and I said, I'm never going to work here. These comics are mean.
Yeah.
And I didn't go in there, and I probably waited 6 months. And you go in there and go, what's the difference? And you start working. So I waited, and he jumped in on it, and I waited till
a real club opened.
the Comedy Cabaret opened. But
Yeah.
was it a real club? Was it a real club? No, they didn't have alcohol. So
Oh.
it's a coffee shop. So it's so hard to make money
Yeah.
with a comedy coffee shop, right? Except charging $4 for a
Yeah,
bottle of water or
right.
something. So I don't think it's a real club, but it was great for me because they were nice.
Well, it doesn't
Right.
matter if you're even working for the Lions Club or something, for luncheon for the Rotary. You kind of get experience since that flight time is
Yeah,
important.
but those guys are
The club-
polite.
And a club is different. A club is different. You're working for real paying audiences, and that's a huge difference between we've gathered you, do your bit, you're a captive audience. A club audience, that's like,
They can leave. They don't mind being rude. They're drinking. Maybe not.
it's serious. It's serious because they're drinking and they're expecting something. So you have to come across. It's
they-
way different than.
Yeah, and they don't. There's no reason for them to be polite, right? They don't have to.
They feel like they're paying for an experience, and if you're not giving them the experience they expect.
That's right, and they also. They don't have to see the rest of the audience ever again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're if you're working at the Elks Club, you got to come back to the Elks Club, and if you're an asshole to the guy who's the kid who's doing magic tricks,
Right.
You come back next month and they go, "Why were you an asshole to that kid?" But
They remember
Mickey
you.
Finn's, if you're an asshole to the
Yeah.
kid,
So the point is the chops. I mean, I got chops doing those kind of shows like Elks Club, as I'm sure you did. Right? You get chops.
yeah, you're
but-
just in front of people.
Yeah, you get
That's what you need is-
chops, but it's not like I'll tell you. I have one analogy that's apt where it's like when I was before I went to college, I just wanted to be a magician on a cruise ship. After I got out of college, I want to be a comedy magician in a comedy club, and
Right.
that's the only difference.
Right.
But it's a huge shift, right?
It is a huge shift.
Well,
'cause,
back then, comedy clubs were really a big thing as well.
Well, they
Oh,
were,
no, no.
that was like the genesis
Yeah,
of clubs.
We're talking
What do you-
1982, 1981.
Yeah,
there was a
81.
proliferation of clubs in every major city.
Yeah.
But,
And there-
not when we were doing
not when we were
it. We
starting.
we were right at the nexus before.
Yeah, got lucky.
There was one comedy club in Minneapolis that was in a labor union, right? They put up, wasn't it a drinking club? Like
was a union hall?
Pipe fitters or something like that.
The Mickey Finn's?
Mickey Finn's was separated with the pipe fitters thing. They put up like walls, right?
I'd forgotten about
Right?
it.
Yeah.
You mean
So
to keep
hard-
keep the bottles from hitting the stage or
Well,
something?
no,
or-
hard drinking, serious, like,
it was
laborers.
Kind of like the
man.
Blues Brothers, is what I'm thinking.
No,
you know,
no,
like-
no,
No,
not at all.
there wasn't
Not
a
at all.
barrier
Not like
between
that.
you and the audience.
Oh,
There was
okay.
a
No,
barrier
they
between
separated.
this union house
Oh, yeah.
and the
Yeah.
club,
The club.
that they
Yeah.
used for
I understand.
drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, but again, I think that's that difference between us, where I'm like, I'm softer, right?
You're a
Don't
teddy
you think?
bear.
I'm softer.
Do you think your comedy was a little bit different from each other then as well? Obviously it is.
I
but
don't-
at
that's
the
what's
time,
weird.
back then?
That's what's weird about this, because Mac, to me, I love the way you played it. Your whole career, man. Mm-hmm. I love the way. I admire the way you played it.
I remember going and watching you 2 or 3 times in comedy clubs in the real world.
Yeah. At the last stop in Houston or something.
Yep.
Right?
And I think in Columbus one time that there was a Magic Fest going on, and you were performing at the club.
Oh, at the Funny Bone in Columbus also. Yeah.
But the way Mac did it was completely different than the way I did it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get on TV when I was, 30 minutes into the game.
Well, he did magic, though, also. Did you do much magic or anything?
Yeah, I thought I was.
Yeah, you were.
That was why it was funny.
But it was, yeah. I mean, your stuff is all, I would say it's magic-based.
Yeah, right.
Right? I'm doing magic tricks, and you're doing...
There is an onus on Mac that he creates immediately, that he's a real magician, and it's just going to keep rolling. And my thing was much more clowny, I think.
More like Amazing Jonathan?
Well, I wouldn't say that because he took a lot of his stuff. That was a lot of, you know what I mean? I was really proud.
You can say that now that he's dead.
Well, it's okay, right? Yeah. I mean, it's reality.
He's not going to complain.
It's reality. I mean, that doesn't go with the grave like we can't go, well, he took my bit. I mean, unless I'm violating some rule. I mean, right? So,
maybe in the next life you are.
But in a way, Jonathan was in the mix too. When you think about it.
Well, in those clubs, he was sort of way ahead of me, certainly. And he was headlining, and I was trying to get in.
And he was a dynamo too. He was strong.
And he was working the comedy clubs. Did you kind of run into him, I guess, around the circuit?
You know what? The first time I saw him was the Young Comedian special.
Oh,
we were on the Young Comedian special, and so that was the very first time I met him.
I forgot you did that with him.
Yeah, they booked 2 comic magicians in the same show, and I was certain one of us was going to get cut. They cut a lot of other people. They booked 11 people, and they used 8 of us.
Oh.
So, or at least 2 or 3.
And that was where? On what?
That was this was a show HBO on HBO. They did the Young Comedian special, and the Young Comedian special is where Seinfeld first broke. Pee Wee Herman first broke. It's like this showcase for really good comics. And so I got in it, and Jonathan got in the same show.
That was in L.A.?
No, that was in New York.
In New York,
Green
okay.
Sleeves, yeah.
Yeah, but it was on HBO.
Yeah, it was an HBO thing. So that was a really good gig. And
did they do those every year for a little while, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But that's where I first saw people like Pee Wee Herman. First time I saw Pee Wee Herman was Young Comedians special. First time.
Now you're working with a lot of other guys who are like top-notch guys, like Gilbert Gottfried and others, I guess, who are around, And
like we had Bill Maher was on ours, Paula Poundstone was on ours, Amazing Jonathan was on ours. I'm trying to think who else.
What did they think of magicians? I recall in being like a comedy club, they always felt like we were relying on props.
Yeah, I think there's something to that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of magicians that suck.
Right, and
that's the thing you have to be alert to. Because if you go in leaning on the magic thing, they'll go, "Oh, there was a guy here last week who was terrible," so it doesn't really help.
Yeah, that's right. But also, it's justified, right? I think.
Agreed.
Because so many quote unquote comedy magicians, they buy a trick and they do it
right that day.
Well,
unfortunately,
or even if they work on it, even if they practice it, comics know. Hey, you can buy your act, and they don't respect that.
It's
right?
really true.
And
it's
so,
really true.
And so,
because the pattern comes with the trick.
Yeah, that's right. The jokes, in the instructions. And so, if they see though that you put in as much effort as they do, then some of them I think will never come around. It's like you're a prop act, and it doesn't matter whether you work on it. It just matters that you have. You're not a monologist.
I got a thing about that too with other comics, because when you meet a new act and you know that they're motivated and they're talented and they don't need anything from you, you become friends.
Right.
You just go, "You're cool because you don't need anything from me." And you're going to be this self-determined thing that goes through, and you just go, "I'm relaxed now because you don't need me to validate you. You don't need me to help you." And it's really fun. And I think I met a lot of good comics that way, because they're just looking at me going, "Yeah, I can't stop him. He's just going to go. He just wants to do this." You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah.
So that's the other piece of it with comic to comic for magicians. Because if there are obviously great comic magicians out there, and there's just a lot that are hobbyists, and you can't be mad at them. They're just hobbyists. They're having fun. They want to get on stage.
Well, yes and no, but you can be mad at them. And this is something I was going to say, Mac, that actually there are a few things in my life that are highlighted, like when I first met my wife and when we got married, and there was a thing in your show once, even that still is resonating in my mind, in which there was someone in the front row was taking notes, and you went over and said, "What are you doing? You're stealing my babies." And I don't know if you even remember that moment.
Was that a magic convention?
No, I thought...
In a real show?
It was, I think it might have been...
Wait, what happened?
Now, I say that, I think it might have been...
He said he was at one of my shows somebody was taking notes in the front row, like a magician.
Of his lines.
I mean, you don't care, right?
Well, back then...
I kind of did, yeah.
So did you... Does that sound accurate? Does that
I
sound
I
accurate?
could have done that. I certainly did that I remember doing it at the Columbus Magi Fest.
Yes. Maybe that was... it was a Columbus Magi Fest.
In my act.
Yeah, like, that's not okay. This isn't a lecture now.
Yeah,
this
correct.
is my act. So
Correct.
they're going, I guess I can take this, too. Very funny bit. I'm going to remember that. Here
Yeah.
goes
I'm in a
the
different
note.
market. He'll never know.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think, too, Scott, the idea of magicians kind of interacting together, we kind of don't like it. Like, we want to be the only ones. Like, we want to be kind of the only ones. It doesn't always work when they're stacked up together, like at a convention. But when you like each other, it's fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why we're here.
But I think when you're
Right?
starting out, like when I was a teenage magician, it made me, like, if there were other kids that were kind of getting into it, I'd kind of get a little nervous and go,
No, you'd rather collect stamps, I'm pretty sure.
I want to be the only one. Yeah. I was nervous about it.
Yeah.
But what about you? Were you like that? Because you're, like, tight with Lance. You're friends, right?
More than friends.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
Oh, you're from Kentucky, so... Yeah.
But you know what I mean? So when did you determine you were friends with Lance? I'd like to know
We
that.
were 14. We met at the Louisville Magic Club, and we were 14, and we've been good friends ever since. And we did the Mac and Lance show, and I think, you didn't. I don't know whether you had this, but I thought this was very advantageous for me to have Lance Burton as my pal. If I'm working on something, he's got a good eye. Turns out he knows a lot about how to be a magician.
That's what's frightening about him, because you go, especially when we were young, he's so damn handsome, you didn't want to give him that.
right?
You're like sitting there
right.
going,
it was also great for me, too, when we were like 18, like, all right, I know I'm getting this. I'm getting the second best looking woman that we're seeing.
Girls always travel in pairs, always one good looking one. And so guys the same
I
way.
know,
Guys,
believe me.
So I don't want to lose the thread about you and me, though.
Right. Well, I think you're handsome too, Joel.
Thanks, man. but okay, so I just gave you a huge compliment because I said you stuck with it. You have this thesis about your magic act that is like different than any other magician I've seen, and you've stuck to it, and it works. And when I first saw it, I couldn't figure out how this was going to work. Like, I just couldn't get it. It worked
speaking of which,
beautifully.
Jonathan said the same thing to me. He said almost those exact
Yeah.
words. He says, the first time I saw you in the club, I'm like, I don't understand I don't understand what he's...
Yeah, how is this going to translate?
What's his character?
I don't get it.
Because there's TV and then there's like a career, and you're like going, okay, well, this will work on it. I just didn't get it, but your whole thing was always motivating this group of people. So they come in, by the end of it, they get you, they had a blast, they did things they didn't
You're
think
talking
was
about the
gonna-
audience.
Yeah, the audience
Yeah.
experience is usually your whole thing.
That's all I really cared about. All my friends were like, I want to be on TV. I had a number of friends who, stand-up was their vehicle to sitcom, right? And that would have been great. I would have liked that. I don't think it's going to happen at this point.
But was that your goal early on? You were thinking, you were seeing...
It was in the back of my head that was a possibility, but what I really
or
liked...
walk on as a character like Harry.
Yeah, Harry Anderson.
Did.
Yeah.
So it's like
those
something
all
like
those
that.
things were like, that's a possibility, and but
Lightning could strike.
But that wasn't the be all and end all for me. I liked being in front of people And
So was Vegas your long-term goal then?
no, not at all. I didn't think Lance.
You were going to do more
convinced me.
theme parks, because I knew you and Lance did those theme parks.
Clubs. I really, I liked being in that environment.
That's when I started to get you and started to hear about you, because especially you'd come in, and because of the stuff I was doing.
I would go to a club and they go, "Do you know Joel Hodgson?"
Yeah, and they'd say the same thing to me. The Juicy Matt King, we love Matt King, and I'm like sitting there going,
I thought you just said Juicy Matt King.
Well, it would.
Did you see
certain clubs? Certain clubs, you just hit a wall, and it was way
Juicy
in the South, but they call you Juicy Matt King, and
There's a new name right there.
How is this happening? Once you're past the Mason-Dixon line has something to do with this, and he's Juicy Matt King.
So it's like the legendary Wid, or
oh my God,
What was that Woody Allen movie?
Man.
Dewey?
Oh man, I can't think of the guy's name. But there were a lot of in the South. There were a lot of crazy names like
Ollie
that.
Joe Prater.
Well, yeah, but
anyway. But anyway, so I would hear about Mac, and it was always like they would just were like so enthused. They were always really enthused, so that you get that reflected back. Mm-hmm. Did you get that from me?
Yeah, they did that with you, but also, I mean, you had the big advantage. I mean, how many Letterman spots?
Like four.
And Saturday Night Live,
about 4 or 5,
and so
Young
all
comedian
those
special.
so all those things at that time. I mean, you hadn't done Mystery Science Theater at that point, but I mean, you had all these. Actual exposure that sells tickets.
That's
right.
I
didn't have
That's
that.
right. And your thing's all word of mouth. You're making it happen, and it's like a reputation, which is more like the way it used to be before.
It really wasn't until you hit Las Vegas that you started getting some TV specials and things. Is that right? When Gary Willett put you on and all that?
No, that was before Las Vegas.
Oh, was? Okay.
Yeah, we lived in L.A., and that was luck. Or, again, Lance Burton. They were all those guys, Gary and the producers of those World's Greatest Magic specials, were in Las Vegas to see Lance Burton's show.
Because he was over at the Body Factory.
He was at the
Body Shop.
Body Shop.
But this was after that. He was already at the Hacienda.
This is after the Grand Prix.
Yeah, he was at the Hacienda with his own show.
Yeah.
And so those at that point, but it just.
But he
opened.
had a amazing reputation.
Oh yeah, no,
amazing.
he was on. Yeah, no, he was on the Tonight Show a dozen times, whatever. But they were all in the audience to see Lance and talk to him about being on those specials, and. I happened to be in town, either working a club or just visiting him. I don't remember, but I was in the audience, and they said, "And ladies and gentlemen, my favorite magician, I think the greatest magician in the world,
Lance
is
said
in the
this.
audience tonight, Matt King." Mm-hmm. And so they're like, "Who the hell is Matt?" And so they came over after the show and introduced themselves.
And you do the rope trick.
Did
you actually do something?
Showroom.
No. But did you do the rope trick then, though? The rope trick opening that you do.
In my act.
So if you see
I happened to be at the castle like in 2 weeks, and they all came to see me at the Magic Castle.
And if you see that, I think it's kind of over. Like if you see Mac do that rope trick and you're a booker, you're like booking it and go, absolutely.
When you could play like last night for the Amish, those kids and everything, with just a borrowed clothesline, it was amazing. I mean, it was very good.
Can you do a trick? And I'm like, if you can get me a piece of clothesline and some scissors.
And so of course they do, because they have to dry their clothes on the line.
Yeah.
That's their only way of getting clean.
Well, the first rope
are you okay if it's 6 inches shorter when I'm done?
The first rope they brought you was for like a horse collar or something.
They brought me some braided nylon
this
thing, and I'm like,
our finest rope gathered from 5 families.
Yeah, from the braids of their hair.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
so then that got you on television by watching that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But what was that you alluded to earlier? Something about, Joel, that you had like 30 minutes or something? And someone saw you at a comedy club and said, "Hey, you'll be great for the show."
Well, I had my set was always like 40 minutes long. It always was. Mm-hmm. I mean, and
that was
the only complaint I ever heard about you. He doesn't do enough time.
Yeah, too short. But
you weren't always a headliner, though.
I was headlining from the time I was in college. Like,
wow. By
the winter of my senior year, I was headlining, And then I pretty much just did it after that because I got on TV within a couple of months of being in LA, and I was 22. So that's when it started happening, and it just helped sell clubs. But I didn't like doing the road either. I wanted to like keep coming up with stuff, and I didn't know why.
Yeah,
why,
and that's
why
another
am I- why
difference.
am I-
That's another difference.
Yeah,
between
right,
us.
I
I like hey, is this funnier if I'm putting more weight on my right foot?
Yeah,
that kind of shit.
And I think he's right. I think his way is the way to go. Because I just would keep churning stuff, and I was doing this other more reckless thing.
To see if it worked? Just try it?
But it doesn't, but it's like, now what do I have? Nothing. I have a box of props that just sit in a box, and I look at them every now.
The new Carrot Top.
I have to move them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I always think about for you, that you are.
Yeah, that's right. The new Carrot Top.
So I was going to ask you then, just not about comedy clubs, because that had kind of gotten you started, but then also the genesis really of creation of things, because one of the things that I still use regularly was that air pressure gauge thing. So it's amazing. And since
you sold that, didn't you?
Well, I just manufactured them. I didn't really sell the rights to it. I think Doc Eason made like 5 of them. That's what he said to me.
I think he did.
He said he made nice versions.
That may have been where I got mine.
Yeah.
Is from Doc.
He sold them, but we only made an agreement that he would make 12 of them or something. You know what I mean?
And they were well made.
So I still own the rights to it. I haven't sold the rights to anybody.
Yeah.
So if you see one, they're really not available right now.
No, they're not, unfortunately. And I'd love to get one because I think it's a funny bit.
It is a great bit.
Did you make the first one?
I made
You can make another.
I know, but it's just like, yeah, I will, absolutely. You're right. What am I thinking? I have to get my own made. I have to do that. But I just don't have it because I only made like 2 dozen of them. I just lost money on it because I wanted to get into it. I only made like 2 dozen of them, and there's so much work in it.
Right.
There's hours of work, and I sold them for like $10 a piece.
Yeah.
To job them to like Magic Inc. I think Magic Inc. sold them for me for a while. But
for those who are listening, by the way, just to describe it.
I like that. I'm really proud of that bit. Yeah.
Yeah. To describe that real quickly for people who don't know what we're talking about, basically it looks like a tire pressure gauge, and then you like hold it up to your ear, and by pushing the little clip on the side, then it shoots out. And
but it also makes the noise. It goes. Tss,
yeah.
So it does that too. So it's very deceptive. It looks like your head is like a tire, and then it came with a little booklet on different gags you could do with it. I think the way I used it was I put it to my head and looked at it, and I go, oh, that's why I keep turning to the right.
Oh, is that right?
That's funny.
I thought, man.
I always say. I was
going
to say. I always say, oh, I'm about court low.
I thought you said, Joel, I'm under a lot of pressure.
I'm under a lot of pressure. Right.
Did you not say that?
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I'm under a lot of pressure right now.
I did it both ways. I did a bunch of gags with them. But you're right. That's how I used to do it. It's so literal, too. I'm under a lot of pressure. Oh, what's this?
Oh,
pressure gauge. Good night, everybody. Hats off.
I wrote that.
That was
my tribute to magic. Good night. I'm so
your
proud.
build up to that.
So proud.
So was that one of your first things that you had invented as far as like a prop kind of a thing, or was that midway? Or?
Well, okay, so this goes back to us being kid magicians, and you want to participate with the culture of being in magic, and you see stuff marketed, and you want to get into it. Like Max, we're looking at the guy who's.
But you never really marketed anything except lecture notes, basically.
What about all the magic tricks?
Yeah, I mean, for the public.
Yeah, for the public.
Sold a lot of, I've done 3 magic sets with Barnes & Noble. I did 2 with a company called Fundex Games, and I've done now my own, manufactured in China, and then a couple of books for the public.
Right.
And so
tricks with your head.
But I'm saying
for that,
a successful magic trick should go outside of magic. Actually,
to the public, if you want to really make money.
No, if you want to have a good idea.
Oh.
If you want to have a good idea,
like Kevin James's hand.
I agree. That's the apex.
Good point.
Of something that works for magicians, but there's not that many of us. So once that's satisfied, to then have it go to another level where you could sell a lot of them.
Delight,
really
for an example.
Cool. What's that?
Delight.
I think Delight is neat, and it works beautifully. And obviously, its success speaks for itself, but I think that's real cool too. Like to go, it's like skipping a stone, right? And one of the skips would be in the, registers with magicians, and they like it. But if it's really great, could it go beyond that? Could it?
It is something easy that the public could do.
Is it well designed?
Even my dentist has got a delight.
It's about it's about design, right? Can you design something that's easy to do and effective, right?
Right.
But that's not your end goal of trying to create something. You're probably creating it to begin with for your act and something that works for you, right?
Yeah, it's like a funnel. I mean, you start real broad. I'm going to draw it on this piece of paper here. It's like
a funnel. I know what a funnel looks like.
Any idea is
yeah, he's drawing a funnel.
Any idea you start really
Speaking
wide.
of fallopian tubes.
That looks like a martini glass. And those are olives, or no?
Nope, that's fallopian tubes.
Oh, fallopian tubes.
All the eggs are here.
That's right.
They travel down.
That's right.
And then one lucky egg.
If you're lucky, one of your eggs will be right about here, and he'll be the strongest.
Get a little swimmer. A little swimmer makes it all the way through.
So anyway, but yeah, of course. But that's design. You start with very broad ideas, and they somehow check boxes that you like. They make you happy. They're funny. Like Nick DeFat just kind of pitched an idea to us like the other day with the duck that we're.
Oh yeah.
He pitches it to me. I go, wow. He pitches it to Mac. Wow. Caveney walks in. He tells him. He goes, great idea, and that's how it starts. And then
it helps to have really smart friends.
Yeah.
That's the other thing I was going to say about Lance. Actually, is that I don't know whether you had this growing up, but we were talking about as a kid. Having Lance Burton as your pal, we got sidetracked by women, but we were talking about it earlier. Yeah. But also, I mean, having me to be able to look at his act, go down in his basement, and I sit on the couch in his basement, and he does his act, and I go, nope, can try it like this, and he did the same for me.
Yeah.
Right, and it's a huge.
Well, it's good to have
help.
someone who's a friend who has a good perspective of magic and a background, so this way they can actually.
And it turns out he has a pretty good background, but I mean, I always felt like because his act was better than my act, I was a better coach.
That's a great way to look at it.
He benefited more from my coaching than I benefited from his.
Listen, at the end of the day, I think it's how can you measure that really? I think.
Well, in millions of dollars.
With a tire gauge. You measure with a tire gauge.
Right.
I believe we have a measuring stick.
That's right.
It's called money.
That's right.
And going back to TV then again, that you also then, I've been fascinated by Mystery Science Theater since the very beginning. I remember a friend of mine back in Midland, back in the early 80s, was telling me about him and his son, my buddy Charlie McFarland, who's a trade show magician, would say he and his son would turn off the sound and they would kind of do the voices and kind of make up a movie, like what is actually going on here.
Silent films, they used to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
And so is that kind of where you got the idea? And then with...
No, not in the least. I got the idea from... Elton John album cover. It was a double wide Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and there was like illustrations for each song, and there was a illustration for a song called I've Seen That Movie Too, and it showed little silhouettes of theater seats and two people watching a Clark Gable movie. And in high school I looked at that and I go, oh, that'd be a great TV show. You run a movie and you have people crack wise. I mean, we call it movie riffing now, but back then it was just they say stuff or they're heckling or whatever.
Right.
But nobody's giving development deals to kids in Green Bay, Wisconsin, right? Especially kids like me who can't get a break. But anyway, so that's how I got to it. And I had seen people do that. I mean, I remember seeing people do it, and I was always kind of... I think Woody Allen did the very best version with What's Up, Tiger Lily for revoicing. But I think Fireside Theater was also doing that.
Great.
The guys from the Goon Show were doing that. So lots of people were revoicing stuff.
Yeah.
But not riffing. Riffing is completely different because riffing, you don't touch the movie. You just
talk over it.
Well, no, you insert stuff when people aren't talking.
Oh, I got you.
You know what I mean? So whenever there's no
silent.
dialogue is when you can talk. And so that's kind of the difference, and that's what's unique about it. And so when people go, but really, you got this from LA Connection, right? And I just go, well, not really. It's just I saw that, and I was kind of like, it's interesting. But I don't think conceptually they had figured it out. They really closed the knot on why are you revoicing a movie? Why?
But obviously it's well scripted, but it also comes from your background of improv, I assume.
No, I never did improv. What about you, man?
Nope. I took some improv classes in L.A., and I'm like, I just feel inadequate in this environment.
It's a type. You got to be a type to be improv. And
Interesting.
I think a lot of magicians don't do improv because they're trying to present themselves. They're trying to present a personality. And improv people are like, I can do anything.
Yeah, I can be anybody.
I can be anything or anybody, but that gets in the way when you're... Like, stand-ups and improv people are very different, I think, cats. They're they're wired different. An improv person is not necessarily going to be a good stand-up, and a good stand-up is not a good improv person.
Yeah, I think there's a reason Drew Carey is, like, whose line is it?
Whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, and so I think Drew, sitting there as the moderator was great, but I think he would have been bad as one of the improv guys, right?
That's not his gig.
Yeah.
So they're really different people, and I think that's why clubs helped us so much, because it gets you sharp. And it gets you kind of feeling your way through it. Like,
yeah, you're feeling your way through it. I mean, you're up there trying to figure out who you are in front of these people, and they help, right? If you're a good listener, they help you figure it out.
That's a big thing that we've been talking about this week, and that's what's so great about Abbott's is it's very chill convention, allows you time to spend time with people, and we've been talking about what performers really listen to their audience, and what performers have such a strong agenda that they can't hear the audience, even if the audience is not rewarding them. They'll just keep going.
So in other words, you got to read the room.
The audience is unhappy, I'm unhappy, but I'm going to keep trucking, and it's like a good listener will go...
But if they're paying you to do a show and they're not necessarily paying attention, they're paying you to do that show, and there may be a bunch of drunks in the back, but 5 people up front. You got to press through and do what you're supposed to do, though, right?
Yeah, I think that's a different thing, though. That's not really...
What we're talking about is when you're building your act, right? And the idea with building an act, to me, is not do anything that's contrary to your personality. You're constantly trying to shape who's Matt King in front of the audience, who's Joel Hodgson in front of the audience, and you don't want to violate that. You just want to support that.
But there can be surprises, right? I mean,
yeah, sure.
I mean, I've thought, I've thought about that a lot, because people say, "Oh, my character wouldn't do that," and my response to that is, dude, if you do it, then your character would do it,
and an audience would.
Good point.
So, and an audience would help you figure that out.
Like Lucy Darling's got a perfect act. I mean, she won't reach down and pick up things because that's not her inner character.
Yeah. Right.
So once you get into character, you know what you would do in that character.
Well, the audience shows you what that is what we're saying.
Oh, I see.
The audience tells you, and a lot of people cannot really, for whatever reason, they're not really interpreting the audience the right way, and they don't really have maybe or maybe not have strong way of knowing who they're supposed to be on stage, and somehow we had to get to that. So.
But you got to it quick, I felt like.
Why? How do you think he did and he did? You didn't.
All
because
that stuff.
I was a kid magician, and I was very autonomous because I didn't have Lance. As my best buddy. I didn't get shit.
But for me, I went through a number of different sort of personalities. I mean, I did this Belgian. Oh,
that's right.
Saw that, right?
I did, with the Norse helmet.
Holy cow!
Do you remember that?
No.
I said I was
Viking
from
helmet.
Belgium and talked with a funny accent.
What was the name? What was your name that you was?
The Baron Maximilian von King. You don't remember that?
No, I never saw it.
That was early.
I never saw it.
But
I never saw it.
But I was like, and so I was like, and then so I did that, and then people started going, "Oh, that's funny. That's like Andy Kaufman." And I'm like.
That wasn't where you were going.
It was. Once you see that, you go, "Oh yeah, my future is doomed because I'm a second-rate Andy Kaufman at this point."
Andy Kaufman opened. Like, I always cite him as one of the most important influences for me in comedy, because you had to really. He was kind of not being. He was making the audience really be on their toes. Like, you really had to be alert and kind of listen and think about it. And some people just didn't get him. Like, I remember... Like
Stephen Wright also. I mean, he just moves on.
Well, he's a great joke writer, though. Kaufman didn't deliver jokes. And, if you listen to Stephen Wright, he's like a brilliant joke writer. So it's very...
those are different. Those are complete. I mean, I don't even think of those
Stephen
two
Wright.
people in the
Stephen
same-
Wright is very product oriented. You listen to him as boom, boom, boom.
I just saw him in Vegas 2 weeks ago.
Where are the jokes in Andy Kaufman? Where are they? There might be.
There's a lot of visual stuff. Mostly is.
I think it's conceptual.
Yeah.
It's conceptual. Jinx. But anyway, so
anyway, I was doing
that's
that.
Great. That's
I
great.
was doing that,
And you
and
had to do that to kind of go, well, I'm kind of going in the right direction, but something isn't quite
maybe
right.
it would be better and easier if I was that guy, because I wanted to make people uncomfortable at the beginning and really try to see how much of a journey I could take them on
It's
from the
important.
beginning
You
to the
gotta
end.
feel like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And so being a hesitant guy from Belgium was my way to do it initially. But then when I started getting pushback, when Andy Kaufman sort of showed up and blew up, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's doing the same thing but better, and he's already famous.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore. Right? So maybe I could just be the same fella as I am, but be from Kentucky instead of Belgium, and that would ring a little more true because, in fact, I am from Kentucky.
But that's not. But again, that kind of reality, that kind of self-illumination, isn't easy to get to. To kind of go to find why you're funny. Like I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of how I how I started to learn that I was funny, and I was very honest. And what I wanted to do was, I'm going to draw a picture here. I created this thing called the frizz bat. And it was like a curved piece of aluminum, and it had a canvas cover, and then it had latex on one side. And then I took a Frisbee and I put a rubber band, a big thick rubber band around it. And you could throw the Frisbee. This was on a handle with a fulcrum and like a spring. You threw the Frisbee and you could hit it like a bat. It was a frizz bat, I called it, okay? And I was certain that this was the sport of the future.
The next best thing,
It's highlight or something. So I'd go down to the gym.
Highlight's not the sport of the future either, by the way.
So I went to the gym and I set up the video equipment from the AV company.
So you're in high school at this point?
No, I'm in college. I'm in college, and I'm going to the gym, and I'm doing tests with it. I'm swinging it, and I have a friend who's good at throwing the Frisbee, and we're recording the whole thing like it's like the Wright brothers learning to fly or something. So it's like doing it really seriously, and it's working. And so we're unpacking everything, and I'm walking through the halls of Bethel with this Frisbee and this stupid bat, and a kid walks by and goes, "What's that?" And I go, "It's the frizz bat," and he just started laughing at me. He just laughed at me, and I had that moment like I can't help it, but there's things I do that are funny, and I have to accept that. And I think you got to that too around the same time. So that's what it is, and that's the rugged thing about what's a good magician and what's a kind of a magician you're willing to ignore because he's not memorable. Is he honest? Does he know why he's funny? Does he know what people think? Well, how to lean into who you are, right?
And do you think that is attainable by everyone? Because I've had this discussion with Penn, who says, "Yeah, you know what? Anybody could do this if they worked hard enough." And I don't agree with that.
Maybe, but some people just don't care that deeply.
They've got other things, and they kind of like this is one thing, and for a while, and it's kind of like look at the pretty thing, and now let's go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
you have to have a passion.
I used to think if you did enough shows, right? But then you see some people, and you go, well, "That person has done a lot of shows, and they haven't gotten any better." And I think it.
It's like a singer. Somebody can have passion for singing and still be bad.
That's right. I don't have any, literally zero musical talent. Penn tried to get me to start a little band with him, the Naughty Cowboys. And I was going to be the singer.
That's cool.
And so he got a couple of 3 good musicians, and I'm like, "Dude, I can't sing." And he says, "Doesn't matter if you can sing. These songs are going to be funny, and you're going to be funny up there.
Yeah, it's
going to be great."
It'd be a charm thing.
And they're like, "All right, you come in on 4." And I'm like, "I don't know what the f- you're talking about." And they try to teach me, what these beats of the music are, and it just doesn't. I can't figure it out. There's something my brain doesn't have that in it. And I think the same thing happens for people who love, and I love music, but I don't have any ability in it, and I don't believe no matter how hard I mean, I could probably get a little better at it, but I don't think I could be good at it.
But don't you think everybody's creative if they just exercise their muscle?
Nope.
Joel, what about you?
It's if you can appreciate it. Like, I think that we're all just wired differently, and
right.
Some people can appreciate that, and some people don't care. And like there are people that have.
But it's heartbreaking, isn't it, for some people who
agreed, and if they really want it,
and they're just never going to get it.
That's why I think people get angry about it, because you kind of get the people who are frustrates kind of everyone, and so it's this natural thing for us as friends and people in a community to try to help people do what they want to do. But sometimes it's about yourself, and it's about, who am I, and can I really look at myself and understand how I look and understand how I sound to people? Like, people would just sometimes laugh at me because I'd say stuff. You know what I mean? I'd just say something and I wasn't being funny. And
You think it's because of your notoriety, though? Sometimes there's
no.
Are
I'm
you
saying,
talking about,
I'm saying before that all happened.
your speech patterns and your just the way you.
I see.
People would
the
just
Joel
laugh.
Hodgsonness of you.
People would laugh, and instead of like me being offended, like, no, I'm a cool guy. Don't you understand? I got lots of ideas, and you don't understand how, it's more like, oh, I guess that makes people laugh. I guess I got that. And if you accept, if you kind of accept it, but I just think sometimes it's parenting.
Yeah.
I think if you look at parents who are funny or at least
Were
appreciate.
your parents funny?
Well, my dad was.
Yeah.
He could appreciate what's funny, and
Were
he
yours?
could be
Oh
funny.
yeah. My dad hugely. That meant a lot to everybody in my family to be funny.
So
my
you
brother's
grow up and
funny.
you're
My
just-
sister's funny.
Yeah.
My mom's funny. Both my grandfathers funny.
So if you grow up with parents who aren't necessarily interested in that, yet you have the idea that you want it, you may not understand how to cultivate that, how to do that.
But some people break out because they've had a bad home, and so they can kind of go on that.
But their parents were bad parents, but funny.
Yeah, my dad was a terrible parent,
Interesting.
but
Funny.
He's funny.
And there was a reward system. If you could get him to laugh,
yeah, that's right.
that's
right.
It's thumbs up, and
Yeah.
and it's like, and I think that was true.
But he and
with
his
my dad,
brother,
too.
his brother, my dad's brother, my uncle, also crazy funny, and his children fun. I mean, it's just a
like your like I'm hung out with your cousin. He's just got that vibe,
right.
He likes that, and so that's part of it. I think that a lot of guys want to ignore if you just go like we were talking about somebody the other day, and I don't want to say who it was, but it's kind of like, if he laughs at something, it doesn't mean it's a good joke. You know what I mean?
He laughs at everything,
and that's something you have
Or
to
he just
be,
laughs at stuff that's
that's weird. And so sometimes that's a barometer too. But again, the audience takes care of all that. If you can break, like Mac, it's churning all these people that come into Vegas. Some people tell their friends. Some people go, I never heard of it, but it looks fun. I mean, what's your percentage of your audience? Like, when you're in Vegas, like, how many people have been there before to see you?
Oh, you have a lot of repeat business.
Yeah, a lot of repeats. I mean,
So
I don't
what
know.
percentage
I don't
would you
know
go?
exactly, but I mean, I've tested it a couple of times just to sort of see, and I've done it a couple more times since I moved hotels, right, to see how many people found me in the new place, right, that had already been at Harrah's. So, and I would say every day it's like 10% maybe that have been back, and they bring people, and hey, this is something you got to see, and and
lots of time, like, I'm sure that's happened to you, Scott, where people will go, we were in Vegas, have a big smile, we saw Mac King, and all you can do is reflect that back and go, oh yeah, he's solid. Like, you don't have to spend any time on it.
And now
Or when people
there's
ask me, I say, go see Mac.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, you say it, but also, I mean, now it wasn't the same 20 years ago when I started there, 23 years.
What was the name of the hotel? It started with an M.
Well, the Maxim.
Maxim. That's where you
Yeah,
were.
that was.
That's where I first saw you there.
Right, and that was like a little 100-seat room. But
And you filled in for Nick Lewin.
Nick Lewin.
Yeah. He went out on cruises. Thought, okay, it's Vegas.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think he got burnt out. He was
Yeah.
doing 6 days a week, 2 shows a day. I think he sort of had his fill of that.
Yeah.
But he, but those, it was different then than it is now. Now, word of mouth isn't just you telling your friends; it's you telling Google. Right?
Oh, that's right. TripAdvisor
and,
and all that. Yeah.
TripAdvisor, Yelp.
Yeah, man.
And so
it's important.
And
It's
a new
important
world.
that it's solid. Like you're really, because you're entertaining nice, normal people that are like from around here.
Yeah,
These
sure.
people are coming to Vegas.
Everyday meat and potatoes people.
And they can all
Yeah.
like agree and gather. And, every entertainer is like that. If they're going to go see Penn and Teller, they have that predetermined thing. Like, that's my shit. I like Penn and Teller. I like Matt King.
Right.
So it all...
there the twain shall meet.
You guys are actually I think it's fascinating that you're good friends with Penn, and it makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I mean,
know what I mean?
he's been well. I mean,
He's-
I don't really like him, but he's said a lot of nice things about my
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
So
Well, when you've been on
behooves
that-
me
It's
to be his
a
friend.
bitter pill. When you're friends with Penn. It's a bitter pill.
When you've been on Foolish, he always says, we're
No,
friends,
no.
and go over to the show and see him. Yeah.
He
helps
yeah,
out.
no, he
But
said the
and
nicest
listen,
stuff.
that's
Yeah.
another piece that we just need to say.
And
is,
Penn, I don't know why you would listen to Scott Wells, but
Just because I listen to him.
we got to back away from what we just said. We
Yeah.
have to patch that up. I was just going to say,
I love
so-
you, Penn,
I so
and you're
admire
one of
those
my
guys.
greatest friends. And having dinner with you and sitting around talking is one of
Yeah.
the chief pleasures of my
I
life.
think they're obviously the apex of the industry. They're sitting in the middle of something that gets bigger every day. They'll always make a beautiful dollar in this business.
Yeah.
I just think. How are we doing on time?
Well-
Because I want to wrap up. Because there's a thing. We got 7 minutes, and there's something we want to pitch you, Scott.
Just before we do
Yeah,
that,
sure.
that I wanted to talk about the Mr. Science Theater real quickly. Then,
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because I said real quickly,
That was
can
you?
unpack that. And
Yeah.
that started in what year?
I got it from the Amazing Jonathan.
Oh, did you?
You started in what year, as far as the television, picking that up?
88.
And trying to pitch that and going to the networks, I guess. How'd you finally? Was it Comedy Central picked it
I
up?
wasn't even
Involved with that part of it?
I didn't. No.
If you've
I
forgotten
was
the history,
hesitant.
I can tell them.
I was hesitant to. No, I was hesitant to try to pitch it because I knew that people wouldn't get it.
It's
I
goofy.
knew that executives wouldn't get it,
Right.
and I had just had a period of time where I was trying to develop ideas outside of my stand-up of something I could do regularly and live in Minneapolis. Like, that's what I wanted
Not have to
do.
move. Yeah.
Yeah, not have to travel and not have to be in LA or New York. So I really wanted to do that, and so I was able to develop it over time. Like I said, the idea started in high school and kind of through college. Like I saw this great book called the Medved brothers did called the Golden Turkey Awards, which is all about ironic movie viewing, like Plan 9 from Outer Space or Robot Monster. And I saw that, and I go, these movies are adorable. Why isn't anybody doing a show with these?
Right.
And that's the other piece of it, but nobody's giving development deals.
And then you got
kids
these
at
other two
Bethel
guys.
College in Minneapolis.
You got these other two guys who are writers and comedians as well, I guess, who have been working the circuit?
Well,
or that came later?
That's
Okay.
way later because you have to cook the idea first, right? It's not just this, and then you bring in people. It's like how do you make it all work within the world of the show?
Right.
It's a lot of it cued off the silhouettes.
Yes.
I didn't want three doughy white guys to be
Yeah.
sitting in the theater seats. And if they didn't like the movie, why didn't they
One's
leave?
plenty, right?
Right.
I don't think so. It's got to be three. It's gotta
No,
be
but I'm
three.
saying one doughy white guy.
I'm the doughy white guy. The rest can go. The rest of y'all can go. So that's where the robots came from. The idea of unique silhouettes.
Yeah.
The idea that one.
And you couldn't
they know-
leave because you're out on a
They know who
spaceship.
I am.
Yeah.
I have these robot companions, and I kind of loosely based it on a movie called Silent Running, which is a Douglas Trumbull film. And so he
Were
was
you a
guy-
movie buff?
I was a guy, and no, I'm kind of casual viewer.
Yeah, okay.
I think I have a normal relationship with movies. I feel.
Okay. Not a big fan. I mean, not a fanboy.
Oh no,
Not a
I love
fanboy. Yeah.
movies, but I'm just saying I wouldn't. I don't want to position myself as an authority.
Gotcha.
I just like them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the onus of the show, and then at a certain point, we had to make it, and I felt obliged to make a pilot. I felt that I couldn't pitch it. Didn't think I was capable of pitching it or teaching someone what I was thinking. So we made it locally in Minneapolis for about 26 episodes. and from the time we started till the time we finished.
So it started as a local show.
We did it as a local UHF show.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And then from there we cut together like an 8-minute cell tape, and I took that to Comedy Central to a guy named Stu Smiley, who I'd met. I co-wrote Seinfeld's first HBO special.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew him from working on that a few years prior. So the idea was develop it, hopefully in Minneapolis, and then try to sell it. And that's how that happened.
Ah, okay.
So that's kind of the genesis.
And they bought it right away, or did it kind of get passed around?
Yeah, it was really neat. It was one of those experiences where I brought the tape in, I show it to Stu Smiley, and he gets on the phone, and right away he's going, Lola, I need you to make copies of this VHS. I'd like you to get it to all these, he starts barking out all these other executives, and it was all happening right in front of me.
Wow.
So it all
You're thinking I'm living in a dream right now.
Yeah, it was all really cool, but then they wanted us to move to New York, and we didn't want to do that because we felt it would be hugely disruptive because we had friends and family. And
sure.
So we said no, and we said, well, if you buy it from us, we will make it, but we'll make it in Minneapolis, and that's how we did it.
And then after that ended, which I guess was just due to ratings or something? What?
Well, wait a second. Just ended. I mean, we had, I think, 6 years. I mean, we had made over 150 shows. So you say that ended. It was like, that's a ton of work.
No, I don't mean to diminish that in any way whatsoever.
That's like saying just your German Shepherd died after 12 years.
I'm saying
come on, can't you get that German Shepherd to live a few more years? What's wrong?
Well, I'm thinking like Seinfeld, that eventually that ended then too.
So if you compare me to Seinfeld, I'll always come up short. Can't help it. But anyway, after that, it moved around, had a nice long life of 11 years, and then they stopped. You mean of repeats of some of the shows, or was no? The show ran for 11 years, made over 180 episodes, had a nice long life, and then it kind of went dormant and just did DVDs and stuff. And then about 7 years ago, I brought it back. So we've probably done a total of 30 shows now.
Why are you no longer there? Because they got the new guy, I've forgotten his name.
I'm 62 years old, man. That's why I'm not there. I look like Colonel Sander, man.
So now your name is just there as a creator. You're not really a producer or involved too much as you were before? Or?
No. I'm still
intimately involved.
I'm still involved with it, and I will be for a little while longer.
You still writing for them?
I'm the executive producer, so I'm involved with every bit of it.
Well, interesting thing is that you'd mentioned about how you did the Kickstarter in order to raise like $12 million or so for that, or what was it? Or
that's in the neighborhood, like probably. It's kind of around that, 13 million.
And then you brought in the
million.
people who are the big donors in order to have some sort of a invention thing?
We have donors that some people have
at a certain
really
level,
a lot of money to participate with the show, and we have we have rewards that are from maybe $5 up to $20,000. So those people, we have about 40,000 people that paid for the latest season. It's called the Gizmoplex. It's our own virtual theater. It's basically our own platform. So that's what we do now, but we also have 20 episodes on Netflix, and we're 100% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's what I've been watching. Yeah, 100% fresh. That's great.
Yeah,
but I've been watching on Netflix.
We're super proud of it. So it's still rolling. We're super happy. We're still running, man. Mac and I are still at it.
Are there some things, by the way, on Netflix that you can say or do that are different than what you could have done on Comedy Central, I assume?
No,
language or whatever, you know what I mean?
Our show, as you probably noticed,
it was never like
we're family show. We're family 14 or whatever. So we never got into the dirty stuff or scatological.
Right.
We were pretty clean. It's just our wheelhouse, and it's part of the reasons of our success, I think. Because it's what I would call family fringe, I guess.
Let me ask
family fringe is good. People ask me to describe my show. I never thought of that two-word phrase. Is really nice.
Right?
Yeah, because I always just say, it's. People ask me about that all the time. Oh, it's a kid's show, right? Because they think it's a kid's show, because it's in the afternoon,
right?
I'm like, hey, kids are welcome, but it's not a show designed for kids, and neither is yours.
And
right?
there's
kids.
And it's all ages, really. What we're saying.
And I'm really proud that it's all ages, right? That 8-year-olds like it, and 88-year-olds like it, and even worse, or harder for me. I don't know about for you, but harder is 18-year-olds like it.
Yeah,
right.
And why is that harder?
because they're cynical little sometimes.
Fair enough.
But they think,
I know. They know it
when
all.
Remember, think about when you were 18,
You're
right?
Superman.
It'd be hard to impress an 18-year-old.
Yeah, okay.
Especially if you're in Vegas and your parents want to drag you to this thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's true. I mean, I'm super proud of that, too, that, like, we both grew up in the church, man. And so it's like you want to be able to respect that, and you don't want to, like, kind of make those people disappointed that supported you. So they got to roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be in my act, right? I would always think, would my grandmother think this is funny?
Yeah, same
right?
with me. Same with
or
me.
Would she
and
would she be, if she was sitting there, would she go, I can't believe
That he said that.
you said that?
Mac makes a good living, but it's dirty.
And, and because I don't have any qualms about it, right?
Right. Some people do that, and they do it really well.
Yeah.
Any great comic,
Yeah,
Chappelle or anybody can go there.
Yeah.
But you're working in Vegas, and then what, Joel, exactly are you doing? Mainly,
What exactly are you doing?
focused more towards the Mystery Science Theater and trying to continue to work with that, or is that a kind of a side gig at your age?
I haven't
Or
performed since last year at the convention, so I don't really do that. What I do is right now is I'm
you write?
showrunner for what we call it showrunner.
Showrunner,
So
right.
that means you're the exec producer and you have to kind of supervise everything. So it's like, well, the costumes and I'm just
Every little
mostly
detail.
looking at stuff all day long and saying, oh, that looks good, that's fine, or we have to solve this problem, or we had a big success. It's always vacillating, but right now I'm the exec producer. I run it. So if it's all goes bad, it's on me. If it all goes great, it's on me. And right now, it's
Right.
all going great. So I look good,
I know.
real good.
But
Like
next
on-
week.
It could go to crap. So anyway, here's what we're pitching.
Yeah. What's
we
up?
think we love. I mean, beyond the church was the Church of Colon.
The Church of Colon. Yeah,
and,
it's funny.
and Abbott's.
Yeah.
And we both had these real profound experiences with this place. I did it remotely because I lived in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and he was able to come up a lot of
many
times.
times. I mean, I started coming when I was like 15 and came when I was 16 and 17 and 18.
And you competed back in '77.
Yeah. So that I was 17 at that point, right? So that's the second year or third year I was here, and I can't remember, but and I kept coming until I got out of college,
And until you won,
working.
because you got like third place or something.
What's that?
And you kept
I
coming.
never won.
Yeah, you got third place. Oh, you never won. Okay.
Yeah, I got third place, and then I think the next year I didn't even place,
Yeah.
because I was doing Terry Seabrook's bill routine.
Yeah. Burnt Bill. Yeah.
Burnt bill routine, word for word, like his directions.
Yeah. Well, it's funny.
And
It's solid.
It's unbelievable. It's one of the greats.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, that's how you start too, right? You're going, okay, this fits me perfectly. I'm going to do this exactly the way he did it. And and over the course of the years, you change that if that's important to you. But I did that in the second time I was in the contest, and I didn't know. I must have gotten here a day late because I didn't know that the night before Terry Seabrook had done that exact routine. And so it was just silence. It was just silence.
That's right. He wouldn't have shown up. We would have hoped for COVID back then. He was scrawny, anemic, bald.
So, but
British
anyway,
man.
what your point is, we love Colin. I've been coming many years in person, and it's influenced his whole.
My experience with it was completely through the catalog. Because I was never going to get here. I couldn't figure it out. And I knew guys from my magic club would go, but it was very grown up. Like, oh, they went and stayed in a mobile home and got hammered. And I didn't think I'd be able to talk my mom into letting me go. And so, but as adults and all that, once we started
Autonomous,
once we realized that
It's a big word.
we know that Abbott's is very strong with us as far as being influential. It's unique in all the world as a place, as an event, and as a place that was basically, almost trying to create like
no, dude. When I walked up to the house this week, I started crying. It just this place means so much to me.
It's real special, and I think all of us from the Midwest had that experience where this is where these great acts from all over the world would come to this little town.
Right.
And you just, when I first heard about, like, when the Long Beach Mystics came in here and, like, kicked ass.
Yeah, I was
and
in the audience for that.
Everybody's, like, talking about it, and you realize that people could break here in Colon, and that's part of the dream, too.
That's what influenced Kevin James. After he saw that, he moved to L.A.
Yeah. Yeah, so
he said, I want to drink what they're drinking.
Guys, and Franz Harari's in there, and who's the guy who acts like a gay guy?
Jeff Hobson.
Hobson, yeah. So it's like he came from here too.
Yeah.
It's like, so we were all kind of, but I was so outside that I would have killed to be able to just sit in the audience and get passed over with my burnt bill routine. I would have given anything for that. So anyway,
so what are you pitching?
We had this. We dawned on us when we were hanging out that we want to take over. We want to do the next year's Wednesday night show and do a Senator Crandall show.
Awesome.
So we want to do the guys who won the Senator Crandall show.
You should reprint that book. You know,
absolutely. I mean, celebrate him. Do pictures.
Yeah.
You know, take that picture of him, plaster it everywhere. Yeah. And just go for it, you know.
Yeah,
totally. But the idea.
But the whole show is people who've won the Clark Crandall Award for comedy at Abbott.
Yeah, and the other piece of this too is Nick DeFott. The idea that we think he's in line for the next one.
What is he, like 26, I think, right now, or something?
Yeah. But the guy's a dynamo.
Here's
what happened Wednesday night that you have to be alert to. We had written a special piece that featured Tim Wright.
When he says we, he doesn't mean me and him.
No,
he means him and Nick.
Nick, Tim Wright and myself have been working almost all year just talking about this and doing this thing we call the parade, which is a parade for Catalog 20
of Abbott's.
For Abbott. So it's really fun. It's like a parade, and you just go through the catalog, right? And we touched on that a lot when we were doing that creation thing yesterday. Is what do you remember about Abbott's? What are these tricks? And so he had to take over the show on Wednesday
because Tim had COVID, so they couldn't do that bit.
Yeah, so that but then Mac was in that. He was going to do
I was supposed to be in it. Carbonaro was supposed to be in it.
Carbonaro was going to do Dissecto.
Was Guy Hollingworth in that?
He wasn't in. He was just going to be on our show.
Okay.
He's a Brit, and they don't get it. They don't get
nothing.
it.
No.
So anyway, then
Abbott's didn't mean anything to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
Yeah. So then, where were we? I'm losing the thread.
Oh, you were just talking about Nick taking over the show.
Well, listen. So all of a sudden, we lose Carbonaro, who's the closing of this thing.
Yeah.
We lose Tim Wright, who's the guy we really wrote it
around him.
Because Tim Wright,
he worked here.
Not just that.
In the woodworking.
He came here. He worked in the shop. He was a demonstrator.
Right.
He did magic all through his career at Clark, and then he does this wonderful
comedy
act, which and it's all. It was kind of like a
He used to open for Jonathan.
Some of that stuff he learned from Neil Foster here in his act.
And he was Tom Mullica's wingman when Tom Mullica was breaking his chops and going into Sturgis to the bowling alley and going to bars. Tim was in all that, so we kind of built it around him. And when Tim got pulled out because of COVID, we throw to Nick and go, Nick, you just got to fill in. And he took over. He took over
he did a great
as MC. He took over closing. He was effectively the
glue.
MC.
Yeah.
I had 10 minutes, like a 10-minute PowerPoint that I was going to do. That's all I had. Bizarro came in and did double time. Bizarro's brilliant.
Right.
And then we had a really good, bright young juggler, Doug Stanford, who came in. And so we pulled it together, but because of that, ergo, I think he gets the Crandall Award this year. What do you think?
Yeah. I think so too, but I don't think either of us. As past winners, neither of us have actually won an entire Crandall Award.
Well, yeah,
you shared it, right?
Yeah,
both of you
twice. Last year and in '88 or something
like that. Yeah.
So we share the Crandall, but
so
that must mean something though. If we say he gets a Crandall, doesn't that mean something?
I don't.
I mean, we're the only living Crandall Award winners that are still alive.
Well, didn't Tim Wright win?
I bet Tim's won. I bet Caveney's won.
Yeah, that's right.
So
I bet there's a lot of them.
They're still alive, aren't
they?
But
it would be cool to say they were all dead.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool. That would piss them off.
So your pitch is for next year for our Wednesday to recreate what you didn't do this year.
We think that we can do at least the Crandall show on Wednesday. We want that. We think we deserve it.
We just want to come back every year.
Yeah.
That's really true, and we're trying to scam our way into coming back,
Yeah.
basically. But we think that's worthy. We think it's righteous.
Not have to pay a registration fee. Yeah.
Well, that's part of it.
I mean, that's 300 Samoans
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of our piece. So we hope that we know
we like
that,
being a part of
We know
this.
that magicians love your show. We know that a lot of people are listening to this. We want to
Write in.
Yeah, if you could write
Start a
to,
writing campaign.
Debbie Bordner.
Debbie Bordner, just an email or a note, a card would be cool.
We want the Crandall Show.
We want the Crandall Show next year. That's what we're hoping for.
And if she says, no, the Crandall Show, no one cares.
The Church of Crandall and Colon.
We just want a show. But
we
the
take-
Crandall thing is a good way to hang out.
I think the Crandall Show is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's our piece. We hope that the people listening kind of take that to heart, respond to it, and just kind of tell their friends about what we're planning. It's a lot like Holiday Inn, like Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye. We've got this big idea. You know,
Right.
the GIs can all band together and help us.
That's
Now, see-
White Christmas, by the way.
Oh,
Holiday
that's
Inn.
for Christmas. Oh, yeah.
Holiday Inn is Bing and Fred Astaire.
Oh, right.
Right.
So you really aren't a big fan, a movie fan. I mean, buff, I should say. So
Yeah,
between the two of you.
Yeah,
White Christmas is the one in the war.
Yes.
And,
That's right, White Christmas.
Yeah, that came later.
Well,
Yeah,
as
see,
we
if I position myself as a movie expert, I'd look like a dick right
So as we close, and we are, the name of my podcast is called The Magic Word, and I always ask my guests, what is it that's your philosophy of life? What is your, not necessarily a word, what is it that you live by? What's important when you wake up in the morning that kind of gives you purpose?
Oh, man.
That's
That's
not
tough,
it
man.
anymore.
We're sorry. I don't know. I think to me, when I'm around my friends who do magic, I respect kind of that. I'm always kind of amazed at ethically what goes on when a magician does something, asking permission, kind of making sure you're kind of direct as much as you can if you're using
Right.
somebody's idea. There is kind of a parlance to it or a way to do it. And when people come up and say, hey, I want to use that bit, sometimes you go, yeah, I don't care, go ahead. Sometimes you go, wow, I really don't want you to. I love this bit, I want to keep it. I would say that in this context, that's what I'd say to magicians is learn those rules. If it's in a book, you probably have it's probably yours. You're free to do it. If you took it from a guy you saw doing it live, you might want to ask him if you're taking
So
the bit.
you're saying respect the art, basically.
Just respect the people who make stuff. I
Okay.
think that because the art is a big amalgam of a bunch of crap, that makes it a thing, right?
Yeah.
But don't you think?
Mac,
like,
I think that's nice. Yeah,
I
respect
love
the people that make stuff.
I love that we spend time talking about it. Going, what's the origin of that bit? Whose idea was it, and what is the proper way to proceed if you really want to use it? And I think there's something there. There is some kind of rule there.
Well, some things get lost in the mist and don't know who started the line or whatever. Like my buddy Fumio Inagaki is one who came up with the UPC gag. But
What's
before,
that?
Where
Like you're going down the aisle of the grocery, and you can pick up any item. What did you get? Kellogg's cereal.
and how much does it cost?
How much was it? And I have that prediction, and it's just a UPC.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That gag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he
it's like
can't-
the no gag or whatever. It's like,
Yeah, it's like the babies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
Mentalism.
Right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So he'd come up with that idea a long time ago, but his name is unfortunately being lost in the mist, kind of a thing.
Right.
But so, Mac, what about you?
I mean, that's really great. I don't know how to top
I mean,
that.
your family
But
or-
it's always been a competition between us all our lives. So I'd like to think of something better than that if I could. I would. How about listening, Joel?
I'd take that, and that was something you brought. That was something Mac brought up. That was something Mac brought up earlier, and I think I have to listen to him. That's the only
Listening.
thing.
I think being a good listener.
Be a good
With
listener.
the audience, I think that's key because there's sometimes we have friends that you want to approach on certain things, like they say something that's hard on the ear, it's
Right.
crass, or they're dressing weird or whatever, and you just kind of want to talk. Sometimes you want to talk to people, but if they listen to the audience, it would correct that.
Yeah.
If they really listened, a lot of these things we don't have to worry about.
So be in the
It's-
moment and listen to what's going on.
you know what it is,
basically.
too? One last thing is autonomy. It's like I think I met all these great people
Sure.
because I had autonomy and they didn't have to worry about me. I wasn't going to make them look bad. I'd make them look good if I went in front of them, because I'd tee up the audience and get them excited. They always liked me. Or if I had to follow them, it was fine too, because I could do a good job with the audience. But I think we're always looking for people who are a little more autonomous and can manage it. Can you manage getting up in front of people and do well with it? I mean, that's fun too. Like, I met great people because they didn't have to worry about me.
Right. Well, this has been great. A ton of fun. Thank you guys very much.
Man. Thanks, man.
Thank you very much for the Magic Word Podcast. That was Joel Hodgson and also Matt King. This is Scotty out. Well, what fun was that? I really had a great time. I hope that you did too. Not only to hear some great stories and to have a few laughs, but also to learn a little bit then too. It was interesting to hear some of the background of these guys of not actually studying improv and the different courses that their paths have taken, I guess, in their lives, having both started out and working in comedy clubs and doing magic then as well. And so it's just congratulations to both of you guys for the successes that you have had in your lives and the things that are still yet ahead of you, because I know there is a lot yet to go. And so anyhow, I hope that you, the listener, really enjoyed this as much as I did, actually giving an opportunity to present this to you guys. Well, I told you at the beginning of the show that we were going to announce the people who were the winners of the contest, and I think now's a pretty good time to announce that. I want to first of all thank everybody who had entered the contest, sent in your entries, because we had just about 100 people who had entered this contest, which is more than most of our contests. This really is a testament to Seth Kramer and the book that he's written, because most people recognize how important this book really is. So let me announce the two randomly selected names, and they were Matthew Jacques and Robert Lamar. Congratulations, guys. And as for the rest of you, thank you again for entering. We could only have two winners, so sorry, not everybody could be a winner. However, you could be a winner if you go ahead and take advantage of the deal that Seth Kramer was offering. He has a twin deal that you can get not only a copy of his Modern Trade Show Handbook, but also a download of his Penguin Lecture that is normally $95, and he has on sale to listeners for only $75. Such a deal. So you might look at taking him up on that while the offer is still valid. Well, this episode has gone on a little bit longer than our usual, so let me wrap it up by saying stay well, get booked, and remember to respect the creators. This is Scotty out.